the UEFA Conference League trophy. 4-1.
Is that a thing? Is that a thing?
It would finish to Enzo Maresca. Yes, only they and Mourinho have done it. Maybe they'll get a tattoo like Mourinho did. Is it a good thing?
Not for Chelsea.
Well, Chelsea are going to be happy with this win today. These are a list of the Conference League finals and winners. Chelsea, the latest among them. Last time around, it was Olympiacos. Back in 2023, West Ham with the 2-1 win over Fiorentina, and the aforementioned Mourinho and Roma in the inaugural edition back in 2022. We've got Luis Garcia with us. We've got Frank Leboeuf with us as well. Let me start with you, Frank. How significant will this feel for Chelsea, this win?
It's always significant when you win a trophy, and you have to enjoy it, even if we all know that the Conference League has just been created, and it doesn't represent many things to the crowd, to the audience, and to the former football player that I am. But it's a trophy. It makes Chelsea entering the history of the only club who won all the cups, all the trophies. But I know that in order to win the Conference League, you need to have a bad season the season before. A big club only plays the Champions League, or maybe one year the Europa League. So Conference League is not a big European cup, but when you win, it's always good to win.
Enzo Maresca, with the changes here, Luis Garcia, paying off in this second half against Real Betis.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, it's not the same to make the swap for Jesus Rodriguez from left winger of Real Betis. That is a fantastic young player. He's got a brilliant future, but of course, it's lacking of experience. And you bring Jadon Sancho, players who can change the rhythm of the game. But I think the most important is that really the intensity of Chelsea increased in the second half. Real Betis kind of ran out of legs. The pressure was not there. The rhythm of the game, it was not anymore the rhythm that Real Betis needed. And with that intensity that Chelsea brought into the second half, made them unstoppable for Real Betis, that couldn't handle the situation, couldn't cope with that intensity. And the players from the wide area, Jadon Sancho or Cole Palmer, make the difference just to break this game. So changes are very important, much more in this kind of competition, much more when you bring on the field players who can add experience of quality. But it was a total different second half than what we saw in the first half, where Real Betis had the options, had the football, and managed to get that first good result, that first goal. But in the end, it was Chelsea who deserved to get the win.
Cole Palmer, man of the match tonight, voted man of the match.
Yeah, 2 assists, 2 really important ones as well. A guy who's kind of disappeared since Christmas, quite honestly. But, you know, your stars, and let's be honest, Cole Palmer is the star of Chelsea. You expect your stars to turn up in finals, in big games. Okay, it's the conference, but it's a final, and it's a game you want to win. And he turned up big time. And his 2 assists is... Yes, Chelsea were in charge, but sitting watching it, you're thinking, where's the goal coming from? Up until that ball from Palmer to Enzo, I didn't know where the goal was coming from. And then from there, Betis really did. I was going to say collapse, but they weren't really in the game at that stage anyway. They were just holding on. And pretty much Cole Palmer took over with those 2 assists. And Chelsea end up worthy winners in the end.
Because it started well for Betis, and we saw a really strong Isco as well in that first half, Ale.
If only the game was only 30 minutes long. If only. Because let me just say, Betis for the first half hour, I would even take it as far as the first 40 minutes, they were all over Chelsea. And they were pressing the ball higher up the field. And to your point, Isco looked like he was the best player in the world. And to be fair to Isco, he has had a really good season for Betis in La Liga. And to see him getting on the ball everywhere on the field, the way that he was combining, the way that he was making himself available, 1v1 situations, creating space for himself, passing, finding spaces for himself and for others, and you're thinking, they're not stopping him. And then halftime came. And when halftime came, and now Chelsea were able to kind of settle down and get back to doing certain things that were always going to hurt Betis, isolation game in wide areas, change of pace through the midfield, change of pace from attacking players. Betis has had difficult times defending in La Liga the whole year, and those things were exposed once again in the second half. And most of all, Betis just ran out of legs. All that they were able to do in the first half Once you go into halftime and you sit down for 15 minutes and then you try to rev up the engines in the second half, sometimes it just doesn't happen because you gave it everything that you had in the first half. You had all the momentum, you had all the energy, did not score a second goal. Had they done that, I think they're able to sustain and maintain the result. They were not able to do that, get a second goal. And once Enzo Fernandez scored, they were already hanging on to your point, Stevie, by the time that Enzo Fernandez scored. But once Enzo Fernandez scored, it was only a matter of time because they had no recourse. They had no outlet. Isco was no longer getting on the ball. Anthony nowhere to be found. The smell of English football around Anthony made him go back to Anthony of Manchester United rather than the Anthony that we have seen with Betis. And he was no longer a participant in the game. In fact, the only time that we saw him in the second half is when he was fighting with Enzo Fernandez. And so, if the game were 30 minutes long, if the game were 40 minutes long, Betis would have won this easily, but that's not the case. And in the end, Chelsea, to your point, to the point that everybody has made, worthy winners because they just have too many tools and too many players in the attack.
Now, Frank, you piped up there when Ale mentioned Anthony. Obviously, he's been such a big story this season, going to Betis and everything he's done with them, but it wasn't his night tonight.
No, that wasn't, and I don't really follow La Liga except the big games when our producers asked us to do so. But I thought that he had a better change from his football. And today, what I saw the ghost that I saw when playing for Manchester United. And the only time that I saw him was the fake fight with Enzo Fernandez. And I was very disappointed with his game because I was expecting something more creative, more dangerous, and unfortunately for Betis Sevilla, we didn't see the Anthony who have been good throughout his season on loan there. That guy has to avoid English football. That's the statement. That's it. Don't play anymore against English teams, and don't play for any football club in England because it doesn't suit him.
What went wrong for Betis, Luis?
Well, I think we've been trying to analyze why this Real Betis couldn't handle the situation in the second half. I think the rhythm that they put in the first half, Real Betis is a team with Pellegrini that needs to have the ball. It's a team that with in possession, they manage, they control the game. The players like Isco who knows how to handle the ball, how to keep it steady, how to have the possession. Anthony today is true that he didn't have, he didn't show enough. I think that Chelsea prepared a special situation for that. Cucurella never went forward. He knew that he needed to stay there because Anthony was hanging on the right side, waiting for the opportunity to grab the ball and make a quick transition. But that intensity that Real Betis brought into the first 45 is something that we haven't seen much during the La Liga season. It's a team that they need to slow down, have the possession, create the chances, and finally trying to find the end product. But today, they found the end product, but they ran out of legs in the second half. Something that Chelsea might be waiting for that one. I think the middle of the park, it was not anymore there. There was Johnny Cardoso was lost a little bit because he couldn't cope with all the players running into the middle of the field. I think that that was the most important point for Real Betis, not managing those transitions that Chelsea started creating. They got quick players, they got quick transition, and the speed on the game just increased, and Real Betis just couldn't cope with that. Once they realized that Chelsea was going on them, they were just putting a low block, and they found themselves already losing the game, and it was very difficult to try to get it back again because Chelsea was in a cruise mode. So I think, again, it was a very good game for 45 minutes for Real Betis, but we've seen that during the whole season. That's why in the table of La Liga, you can see that they went into the Europa League because of the quality and talent that they got on the players, but not because they can manage to this kind of intensity for a long period. So unfortunately for Pellegrini, they will have to wait. But definitely it's been a fantastic season for the team of Sevilla.
Frank, who stood out today for you for Chelsea?
Who was good, is what you asked me?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Cole Palmer, yes. Every time he touched the ball, I found that he was somebody special. Every time, even the first half when he couldn't find his partners, when they had the ball, always something was about to happen, and I really like. Of course, I have to mention Caicedo. I mean, the season that he had, it was very good. I was disappointed with Neto and Madueke. I was expecting much more. Fernandez also, first half, he wasn't there. Cucurella was very cautious, I would say, But yeah, Palmer was different one. I don't know what to think about Jackson. I mean, Jackson is a question mark. I mean, he's an enigma. He runs a lot. He can do crazy things. The guy wants to make a header, and as Ali mentioned, you know, he scored with his chest. I don't know what he does, but he scores goals. He sacrifices himself for the team. Easy stuff becomes very difficult, and difficult things become sometimes easy. That guy is an enigma. But overall, what I have to say, Cole Palmer is it belongs to another planet, I have to say.
So going back to Nico Jackson, who did score the go-ahead goal for Chelsea, there was word that Enzo Maresca had challenged him today to make it up to his teammates for the Premier League games that he'd missed through suspension. What was your take on what we saw from him today?
Well, in the end, he scored the game winner, right?
Yeah.
And so, but to Frank's point, do you focus on the fact that he scored the game winner? Do you focus on the fact that he scored the game winner by accident? Do you focus on the fact that on the counterattack, when he's running away from defenders, and he's through on goal, and it's him and Adrian, the goalkeeper from Betis, and he just takes the most god-awful touch that you can think of. And look, full disclosure, we're sitting in the room watching it, and the yell from the background, in this case, Stevie, was, "Donkey! Donkey!" And it was a donkey touch. The thing is that you see so many of those things from Jackson, but what you can say is that in his chaos, he also creates chaos for defenders. Because you don't know what's about to happen, you cannot predict as the defender what his next move is going to be and what the next outcome is going to be. So you cannot anticipate Jackson. As a defender, it has to be mind-numbing to be able, and mind-boggling to be able to figure out what he's going to do, because Jackson doesn't even know what he's going to do.
There you go. There you go.
And so, and in that sense, he becomes really difficult to handle.
So let me ask you it this way. If you'd have put in his performance today, if you were him, how would you be feeling about it afterwards with the silverware in your hand?
I would have told you exactly what I just said. I scored the game winner in a final. By accident, maybe, but the game winner nonetheless.
Stevie?
Donkey.
Even with the game winner, even with it coming down to you in this chaos that's created.
Listen, we were watching it and we said it. It's such a Jackson goal. It's such a Jackson goal. Gets in a great position, as he was on the break. I mean, he's done so well. He's picked the ball up at the edge of his own box, played a little 1-2 with Enzo, and then he's through with 30 yards to go on his own. Nobody can catch him. Strong runner, quick. I'm sitting thinking, he's going to roll this sideways, because I think Enzo had come up and backed him up. And then, I mean, it was just, but it was so Jackson. It was so Jackson. And the way he takes the goal as well.
Now, obviously, it has put the cherry on the top to what's ended up being a successful season for Maresca and Chelsea. A fourth-place finish in the Premier League, the youngest team in the Premier League with an average starting age of 24 years and 36 days. You look at the cup competitions, they definitely didn't go their way. But when it came to a cup at the end of the season, they scooped one in the UEFA Conference League. And we wanted to remind you now that Frank is on what Enzo Maresca had to say once the Premier League was wrapped up.
I didn't have any doubt, to be honest, about the players. I said that the doubt was from outside. All the ones that they have the answer, or all the ones that they have the truth, they were saying that we are too young, we are not good enough. They were waiting for Villa draw points in case we want to achieve Champions League. And they were saying that we were not able to win in this pitch because too young, because not experienced. And unfortunately for them, they have been all wrong. All the ones, that they have the truth and they have the answer for everything. So in English, I would say F off to all of them, because the player, they deserve that.
Frank, you're smiling there because Jules was a little bit upset with what we'd heard here from Enzo Maresca afterwards, saying that he was the one earlier in the season saying that this team couldn't go on to win the Premier League. They wouldn't be expected to do that. And now he's kind of having a bit of a dig back at the critics.
No, he's right. He has a right to brag. You know, he's finished fourth in the league. He won the Conference League today, and yeah, we didn't think that they couldn't finish fourth. That's the reality. But his first sentence was a lie. That he said he had never a doubt about his team. Yeah, he had doubt, like everybody else. Even the player, they had doubt. You know, about their capacity of consistency. Because, well, as we said, this season in the Premier League, inconsistency is the word of the season. Nobody has been consistent. Even Liverpool hasn't been consistent. And Chelsea, for some people, they were in the race for the title in December. And I say, wait for the first defeat. What happened? Meow, down. No doubt, Mr. Maresca? Yes, you had doubt. Of course you had. They reacted well. Well done the players. Well done to Maresca. He made great choices. He went back to his vertical game. And we are sorry if we said some stuff that he didn't like. But we had to say the truth because that's what we were seeing. And we are quite legit to just commentate what we see. And we have nothing against Chelsea. I love the club, but I had to say the reality of it. And the reality was that they were inconsistent. They are young, yeah, they are inexperienced, and if they went to the fourth spot, it's mostly because of their courage, because their tenacity, but also because the others, they gave up, some of them.
What did you think of what he said, Ale?
Oh, what's amazing to me is that if you take in what he's saying, you may have thought that Chelsea cruised into a top four position or into the fourth place, that they were comfortable sitting there. No, they needed to beat Nottingham Forest. Had they not done that, had they lost that match, we would be having a different conversation. So the margin between being in this fourth place and being outside of the Champions League is really tiny. So then to come out and say, never had doubt. No, I've always believed in my players. As Frank just said, it's a bald-faced lie. It's bolder than Maresca, Frank, and myself put together, right? It's a lie. The truth of the matter is that Chelsea just as easily could have been out. So if I'm a manager in this sort of position, I am thankful of the fact that I was able, and my team was able to finish in the fourth position. I'm thankful of the fact that we're able to win Conference League. But you take this with humility and know full well that there's a lot of work to be done in order for you to become the team that shouldn't be competing in Conference League, that shouldn't be competing in Europa League, that should be actually pushing for a league title, and they're nowhere near that. You would think that that would be the approach of the manager, but instead is, all of you were wrong. Wrong about what exactly? Wrong about what exactly? Huh? Because you were able to beat Nottingham Forest, and that's how you got into the top five? Is that the standard for Chelsea? Because if it is, Enzo Maresca, you're 100% correct.